Hello and welcome back to Beatles channel. Today we're going to be looking at the musings of Bobby Whitlock in his YouTube videos relating to the recording of All Things Must Pass. Before we get into that, the usual reminder, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel from using that button down there. It only takes a second. So please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other videos that I might do. So yeah, today we're going to talk about Bobby Whitlock and his videos and what he says about All Things Must Pass. Because there's been quite a lot of fuss amongst Beatle YouTubers as to why Bobby Whitlock was not asked to contribute to the liner notes of All Things Must Pass 50th anniversary package. And for me, after a lot of investigation, I think the reason is because his reminiscences are not that accurate. Obviously I don't know, but you try and do the research and sort of put two and two together, and I've got an opinion just like anyone else, and this is mine, and it might be unpopular because everyone's a little bit up in arms. Poor old Bobby, but I think there's a good reason why he's been ignored. But he hasn't totally been ignored. But I don't think anyone has really contributed to the liner notes at all, and I don't think that they really need to, because this is put together by Olivia Harrison and Danny Harrison, who lived with George Harrison for quite a long time and probably know all the stories that George has told them. So they've got the information from from the horse's mouth, so to speak. They didn't include a lot in the in the book that came with All Things Must Pass. Don't know the reason why, but George didn't speak that often publicly about the sessions. But I'm sure he discussed them with his family. And if you listen to the BBC Radio 4, I think it was, documentary about All Things Must Pass, which Olivia Harrison contributes, she knows her stuff. She knows stuff that went on during the sessions, because obviously George has talked to her about it. So if you don't know, Bobby Whitlock has got a YouTube channel which he started during lockdown and last year, and he talks a lot about his musical career. And Coco asks the questions and he gives the answers, and she sometimes she riles him, and asks pertinent questions, and sometimes she reels him in a bit when he goes off track, which he does quite often. He goes off at a tangent and starts talking about something else when she's giving him something to talk about. So she's good in that way. But, and this is a big but, Bobby Whitlock is a 74-year-old man now. He was a heroin addict, not during the sessions. I should definitely add, not during the sessions, but as a consequence of that, it's understandable that there are some gaps in his memory, and he may be not remembering things as accurately as he thinks he's remembering them. In my opinion, I mean, Eric Clapton and Ringo were both asked about to contribute memories of the sessions, and they both said, "Sorry, but we barely remember the sessions." So, but yet Bobby seems to remember the most intimate details. What did want to say though, I don't really want this to be a Bobby Whitlock slagathon. I'm just trying to sort of get behind the stories and see which ones are true and which ones maybe aren't. Um, but I do want to say that let's not underestimate Bobby Whitlock's contribution to All Things Must Pass, because it is immense. Um, he played on. I think he plays on about 12 of the 18 songs. Plays keyboards on 12 of the 18 songs. Contributes backing vocals for at least two others that he doesn't play keyboards on. So he's all over this album, and his contribution is not to be underestimated. He is important to this album. But on his videos, he talks a lot about All Things Must Pass and Derek and the Dominoes, because they're the two things that the two main things that he's done in his career. So let's have a look at some of the things that he's done. Just before I say that, I just wanted to say that I think that the most accurate source of getting behind these sessions is Klaus Voormann, because if you've seen the Classic Albums documentary on Plastic Ono Band, which he played on it, and he contributed to the documentary with some great memories, and he seems to remember everything. He also contributes to a book called The Music of George Harrison by Simon Lang, which is one of the best books I've read about George's solo career, and I've read a few. And he contributes to that. And in that book, there is a sort of a best efforts attempt to try and nail who plays on the sessions. So I might refer to that in this video. But let's have a look at some of the things that Bobby Whitlock has said in his videos. So one thing that keeps cropping up on several videos is that George asked Eric and me to put the core band together. And I'm sort of saying, did he? Because I can understand him asking his good friend Eric Clapton to maybe suggest a few musicians to play on this album. But would he have asked Bobby Whitlock, a guy he barely knew, an unknown, pretty unknown American keyboard player? I don't think so. For a start, this is George Harrison we're talking about. George Harrison could have on his out. He could ask whoever he liked on his album. He doesn't need someone to put a band together for him. He could ask who he likes, and no one's going to say, "No, I'm washing my hair that day." If George Harrison asks you to be on his album, you go and play on his album. I don't think George would have needed people to put a band together. And he talks about the core band, and when he talks about the core band, he's talking about the band that became Derek and the Dominoes, which is obviously him and Eric Clapton and Jim Gordon, the drummer, and Carl Radle, the bass player. And he talks about them as if, he always talks about the Dominoes, and he talks about Derek and the Dominoes as if they were a band already, and that was the band that he put together. And they weren't. They became a band during the sessions. They found that chemistry during the sessions, and formed a band on the basis of it. But I think that if he asked Eric, which he might have done, he might have asked Eric Clapton. But when Bobby says he asked Eric and me, I think that he's hanging a little bit on Eric Clapton's coattails with that, because he met Bobby Whitlock on the Delaney and Bonnie tour, and a lot of the musicians on All Things Must Pass come from that album. All the people that I've just mentioned became Derek and the Dominoes. Jim Price and Bobby Keys and Dave Mason were all on that tour. So George knew all these people, You know, he'd been on a tour bus with them, and he knew all these people, not well, but he, you know, he knew them. So, did he put the core band together with Eric Clapton? I don't think so. But tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. He also said he's very indignant about this core band thing, because he says in one of his videos, he says that the other keyboard players on the session didn't like me. He said Gary Brooker, but he calls him Gary Booker, he forgets his name, said something to him like, "You Americans coming over here stealing all our gigs," to which Bobby's very indignant about it, and he says, you know, he's poking himself in the chest, and he's saying, you know, "I'm not stealing anyone's gigs. This is my band." His band? Really? Okay. So let's move on. So the next thing he says, "I was there for every session, even the ones I didn't play on." Which he might have been. I mean, that it's a little bit weird to turn up for a session if you're not going to be doing anything. You know, a lot of musicians complain about, you know, recording an album, the amount of time they're sitting around waiting to do stuff, or, you know, why would you go to the studio if you're not booked in to do anything? But, you know, he does play on a lot of songs, and he was probably at a lot of sessions. But what I think was quite interesting, and I'm not saying that he wasn't at every session, he could well have been, but what's quite interesting is, if you look at this, the picture that Klaus Voormann drew, the one that was included in the Uber box set, you know, it's pretty much everyone on the sessions is in this picture, apart from Bobby Whitlock, which is a bit weird, which kind of suggests to me that when Klaus did the drawing, Bobby wasn't at the session. So maybe. Also, while you're looking at this picture, you find it a bit weird how many fingers Billy Preston's got. So the next story that I want to talk about is his story about the Two Virgins album. I would have liked to have put the clips of the videos in my videos, but I thought I'd probably better not, because of copyright and stuff like that. So you'll have to seek out these videos on Bobby's channel if you want to see them for yourself. But he tells the story about John and Yoko turning up at the sessions with the album cover of Two Virgins and showing, the album cover of Two Virgins, John and Yoko naked on the cover. So he talks about them showing this around as their new album. Well, Two Virgins came out in 1968. Back end of 1968, so this wasn't his new album. He'd had 3 more albums out after that one, so he's getting confused there, because John and Yoko did turn up at the sessions, and George played him a few of the tracks that they'd already recorded, and John was blown away with what he heard, and obviously George was very happy about that. But Bobby goes into great detail about how they came in, showing this cover of the cover of them naked on Two Virgins, and talking about Yoko's tits being on her belly, and his uncircumcised penis and all that. Well, obviously he's seen the picture, but I think he's getting confused, because this wasn't John's new album, and there would be no reason whatsoever in May or June 1970 for John and Yoko to bring in their Two Virgins album cover. Number 4, Phil Collins plays bongos on Wah Wah. Well, Phil Collins did, a very young Phil Collins did come in to the studio during the sessions, and he contributed some congas, not bongos, to Art of Dying, not Wah Wah. So that's another example of, you know, him not quite remembering things right. Now, so the next thing that he says in one of his videos is that he came up with the arrangement for Let It Down, but when Coco, his wife, asked him, you know, what it was that he suggested for the arrangement, he said, "Yeah, I haven't got a clue. Maybe it was just my attitude." You know, he says he's one of the creators of the song, but in the Simon Lang book, where, you know, Klaus Vormann and Joey Moland from Badfinger were involved in the All Things Must Pass chapter, it suggests that that he only did backing vocals on that song. So I'm not sure whether that's true or not. But he, you know, even if you listen to, you know, the loud part of the song is really driven by the horns, and he says that he didn't have anything to do with the horn arrangement. So I'm not sure what he means by the arrangement. If he means the sort of the loud, I think he was talking about the loud chorus, you know, let it down, that bit. Well, you can kind of hear even on the demo that, although, you know, on the demo George isn't giving it everything, you can see that there's already a bit of a build up happening in that chorus. So that was that strange claim. So another thing that sometimes he sort of, you know, there's two sort of aspects to what he says. Sometimes you know, it's the sort of the bigging himself up, and other times there's a tinge of, you know, bitterness about how he's sort of been left behind. You know, he says at one time, you know, I was the only American on the sessions, and which is a really strange thing to say, because you had Billy Preston, Gary Brooker, sorry, not Gary Brooker, but Gary Wright, Jim Price, Bobby Keys, Pete Drake. They were all on the sessions. So, you know, again, this, yeah, it could be sort of a memory thing. And then one of the strangest stories he tells is that, so after All Things Must Pass, Derek and Domino's recorded Layla and Assorted Love Songs, and then they went on the road. And he said they were on the road. I don't know if they were in a car or on a tour bus or whatever. But My Sweet Lord comes on the radio, and it's not, you know, as the #1 single. And he's saying, you know, we're listening to it. George has got a #1 single, and we're on it, and nobody knows who the fuck we are. You know it. You know, like he says it like it's his #1 single. Yet when he's telling this story, he can't remember the name of the song, which is weird. And it, you know, My Sweet Lord is not the Dominoes. You know, they're not all on it. You know, because Alan White's on drums, and Klaus is on bass, and there's Eric and Bobby Whitlock who are on it. So that was a really strange story. It was just sort of a little bit of bitterness, you know, that like people should, you know, it's George's single, but it's like people should know that, you know, that he's on it. It's very strange. In another story, he says about how George used to go outside, you know, the Apple studios and speak to the Apple scruffs, and he said, you they were obviously really pleased to see him. And then he said that he started doing. He used to go out and talk to them, and he said, and they were as pleased to see me as they were to see George. I don't think so. Because they probably didn't know who he was. And then he says that he opened the door for Peter Frampton to be on the sessions. But Peter Frampton has got a video on YouTube where he's being interviewed about it, and he says that George sent Mal Evans down to where he was recording in Oxford Street to ask him to come down and do some acoustic guitar on it. So I'm not really sure what Bobby means by that. He opened the door. Maybe he meant he literally opened the door for him to come into the studio. Maybe it was when he was outside talking to the Apple Scruffs that he just opened the door. Come on in. So that was that. Then he talks. He's a little bit bitter. He says, like being not asked to play on the concert for George was like twisting the knife. And he says English people are trying to write me out of my own history, and I think this is key because basically this is what this is all about. This is him writing himself back into history. But Eric Clapton is supposedly his mate. He put the band together, but yet he didn't ask him. So why? Why didn't he ask him? He said he also says that he was very hurt in Eric's book, Eric Clapton's autobiography, where he barely mentions him in the Derek and the Domino section, and the Derek and the Domino section is not very big, which doesn't really surprise me because I think Derek and the Dominoes were not really a very big band for Eric Clapton. It wasn't sort of that important in his career. I mean, Cream were a huge band for him, and so were the Yardbirds. But Derek and the Dominoes is just a little chapter. But obviously to Bobby Whitlock, Derek and Dominoes are very important because that was a band that he sort of co-founded and played a big part in it, even though they only did one album. So that was that story. And it was a similar story for the concert of Bangladesh as well, because he wasn't asked to do that either. And when Coco asked why weren't you asked to do the concert for Bangladesh, Bobby says, well, English people look after English people. But again, there's lots of Americans that, on the concert, played the concert with Bangladesh. Bob Dylan, Leon Russell, Billy Preston, Jim Keltner, Jim Horn, Jesse Ed Davis, they all played in it. So there's a reason, there must be a reason why he's being left out of this stuff. Why wasn't he asked to play on concert for George? Why wasn't he asked to play on concert for Bangladesh? And consequently, if he had such a major role in All Things Must Pass, not talking about his playing, but from an ideas point of view, why didn't George ever ask him to play on his albums again? Because he, lots of other people that were on All Things Must Pass, played on later George solo albums, but then he never asked Bobby Whitlock to play again, which is quite strange. The thing that he said, and these videos have been taken down, and was when he went just prior to the 50th anniversary set coming out. Bobby was sent the files of all the songs and the outtakes and stuff. And he did a video, and he said that it sounded great, and it was really kind of them to send him the files. Um, um, and then he was asked to take the video down. I'm not sure why, because he was very complimentary about the album, about the remixes, and it might have been just that they didn't want anyone, talking about the album before it had come out, or reviewing it, before the album actually came out. So that might have been the reason. I can't think of any other reason really, but it should really have been allowed to stay, because obviously, he was giving it a favourable review, and obviously that's good promotion for the album when it comes out. But then, so when he took the album down, when the album did come out, he just lost his shit about it. He said, he said, it's the biggest load of shit I've ever heard. It's fucking awful. We've been listening to the jams, and they're so muddy you can't hear anything. Yet the jams weren't remixed. It's the same jams. So I think he later had a rethink and thought that was a bit harsh, and he took down the video, and you can't find it now. But there was quite a lot of fuss about it for the time that it was up. Lots of people in Beatles circles saw it, and he in this video he said, well, I don't know why George wanted to remix it anyway, because he knew what he was getting with Spector. But yeah, in another video about Spector, he said that he never came down on the studio floor. He just sat in the control room and just put echo on. That was that was Bobby Whitlock's definition of Phil Spector's production. And he said, he knew what he was getting because he worked with John Lennon on Imagine, but Imagine didn't come out until for another year. It didn't come out until 1971. So, that's pretty much it. There's lots of stories, lots of conflict, and lots of talking points, I think. So do tell me what you think of sort of these findings. Go and have a look on his channel. Some of the videos are still there. Some of them have been taken down. But generally his videos are very informative, and they're quite fun to watch. But I still keep coming back to this thing. If he was so integral to the project, and as integral as he kind of makes out, why was he never asked to play on any of George's albums? Why wasn't he asked to do a concert for Bangladesh? And why didn't his mate Eric Clapton ask him to play the concert for George? So, sort of in summary, I think there's a little bit of forgetfulness. He doesn't remember as much as he thinks that he does, and there's a bit of bigging up of his own importance and a little bit of rewriting history. That's my take on it. Do tell me what you think. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been a long time in making, and quite a lot of research has gone into it. Please subscribe to the channel. Press the button sort of over here somewhere. It only takes a few seconds, or it doesn't even take a few seconds. It takes 1 second. And I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.